Good morning, everybody. Welcome to episode 4 of the Dealmaker series from Crystal Specialist Finance. In this series, we aim to take a deeper dive into how lenders will look at specifics of deals rather than just discussing USPs. And in this episode, we're focusing on the world of specialist buy-to-let mortgages. There are 2 ingredients that we really need to make these webinars successful. The first is questions from you. On the bottom of your screen, there's a Q&A button. So please feel free to use that during the session to ask any questions that spring to mind, and we'll do our best to respond to them within the next hour. The second is the expertise of the panel. And I'm delighted to be joined today by 3 industry experts. We have Keith Jones, Regional Account Manager for Foundation Home Loans, Richard Angel, National Account Manager for Specialist Distributors from the Mortgage Lender, and Crystal's very own Richard Bond. Welcome, gentlemen.
Morning.
Morning.
So, Richard, I'll start with you on this one, if I may. Just how busy is the buy-to-let marketplace at the moment, and what type of deals are you seeing completed at the Mortgage Lender?
Well, I'm sure that if you were to ask Keith this question, he would respond in the same way, which is that things are extremely busy in the buy-to-let market currently. And certainly the one thing that we've noticed is that there has been a greater need from intermediaries to be able to access products from specialist buy-to-let lenders as well. It's not about the vanilla case, the standard dwelling. It's about portfolios. It's about the complexity of the applicant. And that could mean a number of things. That could be an SPV that's got a tiered ownership. It could mean expats. It could mean many, many things. So certainly at the moment, it's a very good time to be in the buy-to-let market. Excellent.
And Keith?
Yeah, as Richard's just saying, it's incredibly busy at the present time. We're probably 3 or 4 times sort of busier than we've ever been before. Lenders obviously are really busy, Richard's saying there. Solicitors, obviously brokers are really busy at the same time as well. It's a really hectic time, and obviously packages as well, or specialists like yourself. It's a really busy time at the moment. What we're seeing is obviously there's a massive benefit for landlords at the moment. The last 12 months, we've seen a massive shift from where we were to where we are. 12 months ago, the data we had was that landlords were looking to release property and actually sell them. Now it's a case of the last 12 months really shifted up a gear in that sense. And they're actually obviously buying, remortgaging as well, to release funds whilst prices are high, and obviously then purchasing while prices are on the increase as well. So really sort of beneficial times as well. Been a really, really powerful time really for the industry. Shows how resilient we all are. When it comes to sort of independent owned buy-to-lets going through to limited company, we've seen loads of the shift into that, taking advantage of what's the stamp duty side of things as well. HMO purchases, loads of those is again looking at yields, making sure they're sort of strong. And then obviously the staycation, looking at holiday lets, really, really big in that space as well. So there's been loads of opportunities there. And as I say, from this time last year to where we are today, yeah, phenomenal growth, I'm sure for all lenders, but they are very complex in nature as well. So yeah, it's been a good time, but a lot of hard work in there as well. But yeah, overall, very, very positive.
Excellent. And this is going to get confusing with 2 Richards on the call, but Crystal's Rich. Anything to add to that? Might be a signal issue there. I'm sure we'll get him back very shortly. There you go. I think you're moving again now, Rich. Can you hear us?
Yeah, so that's okay. Wi-Fi playing up.
Anything to add to that? Just how busy the space is currently and what kind of deals you're seeing?
Yeah, I think as obviously both of the panel members have said, it is extremely busy. We are seeing both ends of the spectrum. So we've got obviously portfolio landlords dipping in and remortgaging their existing portfolios to release the capital to obviously purchase some more. We've also got these first-time landlords and first-time buyers that are active in the markets as well, which is a growing trend. And I think as sort of demand in the rental market continues to grow, hopefully we'll see that continue to come through in new blood coming into the landlord sector as well. So no, it's been a very busy first half of the year, which is fantastic.
And Keith, just picking up on one of your points there, what impact do you think the stamp duty holiday has had on the industry? And if you could look into a crystal ball, what do you think we'll see beyond the end of this month?
Yeah, in that sense, stamp duty holiday, it's obviously intensified people's activity and make sure they're aware of benefits that are out there as well. I mean, a few notes about that previously as well, but it's obviously had a positive impact. Business levels, in the pipeline, our pipeline is huge still. So in this sense, it's been a very good period until now. And obviously we know at the end of June things are changing, but the pipeline is very, very strong still. And they know that those cases aren't being completed in that time as well. So yeah, it's been a really positive impact. But going beyond that, there's actually a really positive position as well, because the market has realised actually there's so much to be gained by buy-to-let. There's so much to be done in this space as well. There's a real sort of verve in the market as well. Deals, won't complete by the 30th of June. They're going to complete thereafter. The market's going to remain strong, I'm sure, after that as well. We expect it to flatten slightly during the sort of quarter 3 and 4. The other thing that's also quite sort of apparent is holidays. People are obviously really keen to get away, and that's going to be, lenders, brokers, all these different people. They want to get away on a holiday at some point. We should probably see some reaction, perhaps some slowdown for that reason as well. But again, in quarter 4, potential pickup there as well. So it's all very, very positive. And I think it's more than just a saving of stamp duty. It's actually, I can buy this as a long-term investment. Hence the reason a limited company side of things as well. You don't do a limited company buy-to-let for a short-term gain. This is a long-term sort of venture that actually, going to benefit family and, for years and years to come. So really a case of, this is a great opportunity, let's make the most of it. And people have, but going forward, it's going to remain. The demand's still there. It's a really good place to be. Fundamental market is strong. And housing stock has always been sort of seen in a very positive light as well. And there's no reason to suggest it's anything different to that going forward. So yeah, great times we've had the last few months. Obviously going forward, it's going to remain, I'm sure. So yeah, that's our view, in my view.
Okay, excellent, thank you. And Richard, same question to yourself.
I think that one thing that we will all share, whether we're lenders, whether we're intermediaries or specialists like yourself at Crystal, Kris, is that the level of business that's come in as a consequence of the stamp duty holiday has been phenomenal. And the one thing that we've all tried to keep on top of is providing a quality service to our end customer. And that's absolutely vital because, we've got a person at the end of this transaction, I should say at the start of this transaction, sorry, and that person is trying to realise an opportunity, whether it's to do their first buy-to-let, add to their portfolio, refinance to do refurbishment or whatever. So we always need to be mindful of that. So service for us has been a real key driver, and we've done very well this year in being able to maintain a really good quality service to everyone. But you know what, as one door shuts, another door opens. And certainly the one thing that's becoming apparent to us is there's going to be an awful lot of activity over the coming months with regards to product transfers and with regards to remortgage opportunities. Because if you recall, 5 years ago, that was when we first started on this path of our rental assessments, and the very first 5-year fixed rate pay rate calculation products were launched. So those are coming up for maturity now. Now, whilst there'll be great opportunities for intermediaries to perhaps place those again on a product transfer that are nice and straightforward, I feel there's a greater opportunity for them to be able to access your services and specialist lenders via yourselves, Kris, to be able to place those clients who are looking to do something more with their buy-to-let. Perhaps they're looking to buy into an HMO for the first time or a multi-unit block. So we've got that to bear in mind. And the other thing over the summer, I'm delighted to be able to share with you guys exclusively and your audience exclusively today, which is that next month we will be launching into the holiday let sector as well. That's proven to be a very popular part of the market. And as Keith has mentioned, staycations has become a word, hasn't it? We didn't really know this word until recently. So we feel that's a great opportunity in the market. We've identified it as well. And I've no doubts there'll be many, many more entrants as well that will be bringing further opportunities to applicants to be able to diversify their portfolios.
Excellent. Thank you for that, and an exclusive there for all of the viewers watching. You heard it here first. So, Rich, from your side, then, having listened to the two areas that the areas that the two lenders have got appetites for and what they're seeing at the moment, what contribution can you add that encourages the benefits of using a packager like Crystal?
I think obviously, sort of the first and foremost is obviously we understand the brokers and their clients' needs. Obviously, we want to be thought of as a sort of a multi-tool or a multi-product packager. So, for instance, we don't just want to be thought of for buy-to-let. You can come to us for sort of, you bridge in the residential, the complex residential, the commercial. So that's sort of first and foremost, that we've got expertise in multiple sort of sectors. But obviously with that expertise, we're used to dealing with the fast-paced and evolving marketplace SLAs and the lenders SLAs. So we also understand the importance to delivering the speed and flexibility that obviously the brokers and the brokers' clients require. Obviously in relation to that, we sort of want to build relationships with our broker partners as well, but also the lenders. I mean, also got to very today, they've got great products. They sort of where we're seeing huge growth, and obviously we want the relationships that we can build with our brokers to sort of fund those deals that they're finding tricky, that they can't place with the sort of more vanilla lenders.
Excellent. And as you touched on, their service is essential. There's a client at the end of the transaction, as Richard mentioned, and our focus at Crystal is that service. It's about delivering that process and making sure that everyone involved in the transaction gets the very best delivery from it. So leads me on to the next one then. So Richard, I'll start with you with this one. Buy-to-let lenders obviously have to be more criteria driven than certain other areas of specialist finance like bridging or commercial, etc. But how flexible are you able to be at the mortgage lender?
Wow, how long have we got, Chris? Another day and we'll be at the weekend. Okay, I think there are probably 5 key areas in which we can really shine and excel. So if we're talking just buy-to-let, we call what we do real life lending because we think there's more to it than just specialist lending. And in terms of those key areas just within buy-to-let, Chris, the first thing I would say is that we don't have a minimum income for our buy-to-let applicants. All that we're interested in is establishing the tax status of the applicant, so we can make sure that we're running the right calculation for a start. But there's no need for us to be worrying about a minimum income. So we will lend to employed, self-employed, property investors, retired applicants. It's quite a broad range of applicants we'll consider. There are a number of things that are coming out that are quite interesting. We're finding that our tiered ownership model for SPVs is very attractive. So we will allow a situation whereby an SPV is established and you may have mum and dad, and for inheritance tax purposes, they may want to include their children within the SPV. So we're happy with that. Unfortunately, we can't accept a 9-year-old on a mortgage application. We can't go that far, but we can accept mum and dad, and that's proven to be very, very popular. First-time landlords are very strong. Low-value loans are very, very strong as well. But at the other end of the scale, we're finding a significant upturn in high-value loans. And certainly when you look at the mortgage lender and you source our products based on the product term and the total cost, we come out very, very strongly. And certainly with our high value loans, we've got very competitive completion fees. At £1 million, it's 0.75, and £1 million and above, it's 0.75, and at £500,000 and above, it's 0.5. Now that's very strong, but we'll also add that at our maximum LTV. So if the applicant wants 75%, 75% is what they get. We won't be deducting anything off of that. But certainly from our perspective, we can only be as flexible as the partners we're working with. So you guys at Crystal, you do the heavy lifting. on behalf of the applicant, the broker, and us. And the one thing that we really enjoy working with you guys is that you have got a habit of getting it right first time. So it means applicant provides info to the broker, through to you, us, offer. And that's what we like. And that's why we partner up with specialists like you, Kris.
Thank you. Very interesting viewpoint on the flexibility there and comparing the different incomes and things from there. Excellent. Thank you. Keith, same question to you.
A few similarities in there. One thing about, again, with ourselves, there's no minimum income. What we're looking for is making sure that the persons have got adequate funds to maintain the mortgage in the event of void periods. I think the last 12 months has been an average of about 90 days or something like that, the void period. If somebody wants to borrow £1 million and on £1,000 a year, then we're going to struggle, because after a week of it being void, they're suddenly struggling to make the payments. So it's just a case of pragmatic view. I want to borrow this amount of money. My income is this much. That makes sense to us. We're happy to do that. So it's just that a pragmatic view. The other thing behind the scenes is the background stress test. So what you've got, portfolio size, I've got £5 million in property. That's at 78% loan to value across the board. We can take that if you can get up to 80% on that. And we just do a standard stress test, and we can do a lower stress test if required for the lower LTV side of things. So that can be very beneficial as well. We're also finding quite a lot of people who are living in rented, who have a buy-to-let, want to buy further buy-to-lets, coming to us as well. And again, we can do that. You have to be a property owner rather than a residential owner. Although you can be a residential owner, obviously, but you can be either. And on that basis, then I'm in rented. I've got one buy-to-let. I want to buy another 5 because it's a real good opportunity. We can do that. It's not an issue. So there's quite a few sort of good angles on that. When it comes to the lending, on a limited company case, we do a calculation at 125 of pay rate, and recent rates has been lowest on 5 years at 75% at 3.24. So there's a generous lending figure there as well. Shareholders on an SPV can be 19% and below. We don't need any information on them. So again, go back to Richard's point to a degree there. If you've got, mom and dad, and you've got 2 18-year-olds that want to be on there as well, 19% of shareholding, we don't need anything about them. It can work really, really well on that front. But yeah, overall, it's a manual underwrite. It's a good overall process. Probably under a little bit of pressure at the present time with the end of the month coming up as well. But again, it's in a good place overall. So, but yeah, good position and good flexibility when we can help that. And it's probably 5 key areas we can help with in the flexibility side of things, similar again to what Richard said earlier. So, yeah, that's it.
That's one of the big things about specialist finance, I think, that you hit on the head there, the manual underwrite. The fact that it's not a computer that makes decisions on the majority of cases. There's someone actually looking at it, understanding the deal, and then can shape that to meet the criteria from there.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's frustrating at times, but at other times it's actually really beneficial. So overall, I'm sure we win really. So,
yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Rich, so you've heard examples there from the 2 guys on the panel. Can you give us an example of a piece of flexibility that you've observed this year from Crystal's side?
Yeah. I mean, just touching back on that point about the manual underwrites, we had a limited company application, buy-to-let purchase, where there was a friend in the background who wanted to invest in the property that the 2 applicants were purchasing in the limited company, and provide the deposit. However, obviously, most lenders weren't accepting that as an acceptable gifted deposit into the limited company. So one of the lenders on our panel actually agreed that if the friend became a minority shareholder in that business, they could invest in the property that they wanted without being involved in the mortgage. So it was kind of a win-win situation for everyone involved, and that went through to complete. So it was a great piece of flexibility shown by that lender, and sort of ultimately showed what a specialist lender can do in that marketplace.
Excellent. And that case was originally a decline as well, so it was a real nice turnaround on there.
It was.
Brilliant. Well, thank you for that. So we've had a number of questions sent in advance, and I can see a few questions coming in on the Q&A part as well. So please keep your questions coming in. We will do our best to answer all of these live during the rest of the session. So the first question, Keith, I think I'll start with you with this one. So Niels from Harmony has commented that he's seeing a lot of bad payment profiles currently resulting in declines. So what's your stance on adverse credit?
Because we're not an adverse lender. That's probably straight away, when specialist lending is mentioned, people think, oh, that's adverse. We're not an adverse lender. We do take into account sort of minor blips, which can over the course of, we've got products that fit different segments. So you've got a client who comes to you and says, yeah, I've got a default from 3 years ago. I paid it off. We can help with that. It's not a problem. If you've got one that's over 12 months old, we can help with that as well. We're not looking for sort of, how can I say, a poor payment profile. We're looking for somebody who had a problem. They put that problem right. They then want to move on with their life as well. We're happy with that. You know, when it comes to, there was Pepper had some information out this morning, was it, or last night, saying that 6.29 million people have had adverse in the last 3 years. It's quite a considerable number of people there. Again, some of that is going to be quite minor, I'm sure. I hope so anyway. So literally we can help in a lot of those cases, but not all of them. And I think it's really a case of speak to us about where the profile fits. If you've got one that's squeaky clean, there's no issues in the last 6 years, it's in our prime range. If it's over 2 years ago, it's in our middle range. And if it's more recent than that, we can look at that to see what we can do as well. Alongside that, we allow slippages when it comes to credit cards and loans, etc. And even a little bit of secured arrears. Again, that's low down the pecking order on that. But again, we're not an adverse lender, as I mentioned at the start. We are looking at blips. We can help out, but not with all circumstances, unfortunately. So yeah. One thing I would say as well is actually brokers can actually obtain the credit report beforehand. The amount of times we see it where it's coming in and there's a load of baggage there, and actually it would be nice, you know, that was done beforehand. And just speak to us about it, see what we can do, but get the report if you can beforehand to help out, to help us make the decision and go to the right place first of all.
Thank you. Richard, anything further to add to that?
Yeah, I think from TML's perspective, we're similar to Foundation insofar as that we will assess credit files on an individual applicant level. So, you know, we're not looking for the heavy adverse. Having said that, yeah, we will accept applicants that have got CCJs, secured arrears, unsecured arrears, for example. But we're typically looking at those things being blips, and that would have happened over a year ago if it was secured arrears. And certainly when it comes to unsecured arrears, we'll allow one in 24 months. The most common thing that we find with regards to credit status on buy-to-let is things that just kind of happen unintentionally, and then the consequences are severe, which prevent that applicant from hitting the mainstream. So as an example, utility and communication arrears and defaults, we don't treat as adverse. And one of the most common things that we see are utility bills that have not necessarily been transferred from the applicant's name into the tenant's name. And then what can happen is an arrears can be created, and it could go as far as default. And that is usually in combination with a poor rental track record from the tenant to the landlord. Now, the landlord may be able to deal with that issue around the rental arrears, but they may have taken their eye off the ball with regards to the utilities, and that can trip them up. Now, we don't actually have a monetary cap in place for those things. We work on number, not value. So we're good insofar as that's concerned. You know, obviously things like the severe stuff, you know, the payday loans, that's not something we're looking to be involved in. But very much like Keith said, we're a manual underwriter. You have direct access to our underwriters, and we'll look at each case on its individual applicant level.
Excellent, thank you for that. And Rich, anything to add to those comments?
I think obviously this is where ourselves can add real value, because obviously I'm sure as all brokers sort of watching this will be able to relate to what a client tells you they've got in terms of a credit history, and what actually is turns out to be the truth is sort of quite varying. So obviously where we come in and really add the value is that if a case comes in and, for instance, it was going with Foundation and it was to fall outside of Foundation's criteria at point of credits, you know, credit search or sort of application, we can step in. Obviously the guys upstairs have got the expertise to sort of replace that with the next best lender that suits the client's needs, without minimal hassle and minimal time spent for that broker sort of resourcing it, whereas obviously doing it on their own direct to the lender, they've got to sort of sit back down, go back through the process and effectively start again, whereas obviously we can literally just pick the ball up and move it on to the next one, and sort of, again, touching on what you said earlier, it's that speed and service that we're delivering to the end client, really.
Thank you. The next question we've got is from Umar from Books Wealth, so thank you for that. So Richard, I'll start with you with this one, if that's okay. One of his clients has got an 8-property background portfolio. A couple of the units are vacant at the moment, so it's failing on some lenders' background stress tests. How would you view that one?
So the way that we would approach that is that let's have some visibility. Let's have the opportunity to look at that portfolio in its entirety. Now, the way in which that's presented to us, there's a couple of options here. You guys obviously know what fits and what doesn't fit in terms of our background stress. We have a form that's available, our own form that's available that can be completed, or alternatively, and I'm sure Keith may pick up on this as well, we subscribe to eTech. And eTech is a great piece of software insofar as that it gives the broker, the end user, the ability to upload once all of that data. And then from that, lenders are able to migrate that over to their own systems. To answer the specific point with regards to, hey, I've got an 8 background portfolio here, but a few are vacant. It depends what a few is. A few is going to be anywhere between 0 and 8 on this example. But way we would look at it is we would look at the balance of the portfolio. So if we can look at that case and say, do you know what, there is a vacant property there, but the applicant has got money to cover rental voids, but it hits the stress test elsewhere, that's a conversation that we can be having. We're not going to be immediately ruling ourselves out on that case. Okay,
very helpful. Thank you. Keith?
A similar sort of theme on that as well, actually. What we look at on that is look at obviously the full portfolio, but also look at the market rent for it. So a void period, a void property, what would it rent out for? How long has it been actually void for? What's the likelihood of it being rented, in the near future? And look at the overall story for that as well. And they can build those potential rents into that to make it work. So yeah, overall, we are working on a new process for the background portfolio, which you mentioned there, eTech. We're working on actually make that easier to upload, etc. And that's going to come through in the next few months as well. But overall, it's not generally an issue for us. We try and work a solution out. And again, if it's 1 or 2 out of the 8, fine. If it's more than that, then we just have to be more, stringent in what we're looking for, really, and understand what's going on there. Is it a case where they're trying to get too high a rent for the property that's not realistic? Or what's the issue in the area, etc., just so we can understand the full picture on that. Another side point to that as well, on the stress on the portfolio, we look for the mortgage balance. So people have got mortgages on repayment basis, it's not going to hinder us at all. So it's 100 grand and people are paying 1,000 a month. Not an issue with that, because we only look at the 100,000 and work on the actual calculation for that as well. So even on a repayment basis, it doesn't hinder us when it comes to the portfolio stress test.
Yep, excellent, thank you. Rich, anything further to add?
No, I think in terms of all I'd say is that I think sort of the responses that the guys have given just shows you sort of what versatility and flexibility is available in the specialist marketplace. Obviously, this is just 2 of the lenders that we've got access to. So all I'd say is if you've got something that's complex and sort of out norm, is pick up the phone and give us a call, and as I'm sure the guys upstairs with their expertise will be able to place it with either one of the 2 lenders here or one of our other ones.
Excellent. Thank you. Next question is coming from Ian. This is a specific one for you, Keith, here. Ask for some info around the green mortgages.
Yes.
A bit of background around those.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an initiative, obviously, on the back of the government sort of drive in the area to sort of move that forward. We want to be at the forefront of that sort of development as well. We want to be there, seen to be sort of, green mortgages. It's a very positive place to be as well. And it's rewarding clients, rewarding landlords, etc., for having good property that's efficient, etc., for the overall greater good, I suppose, really, as well, and for their benefit. The product's really, really useful, really good on that space. There's a couple of things I mentioned as well. But also, the landlords can make use of the grants that are available. If they're not in that sort of EPC world of a C and above, there's grants available for them to actually improve the property. Because obviously, as going forward by 2026, I think it is, properties are going to be at a higher level, I think EPC 3, C, etc. at that point. So take advantage of the grants, get the property up to the good level, then take advantage of better mortgage products as well. It's just that drive to move it forward, really. We're conscious of the carbon footprint we leave, so let's help that journey, really. Product-wise, it's some good products in that space with low fees, 0.75 fees, large cashbacks to incentivise people as well. And the one thing that's very useful as well is actually remortgage within 6 months on that product. So if a client comes to you and says, yeah, I've got this property, I'm going to buy on a bridge, and I'm actually going to improve it and get it up to a good level, they can remortgage onto that within the 6-month window. So I'm going to wait for that period of time. So again, in those sort of scenarios, speak to us and work out a way forward, because it is very beneficial rate-wise, fee-wise, and obviously cashback to cover legal costs, etc., and other associated costs. So yeah, really positive place to be. We want to move that forward, and I'm sure that will expand going forward as well. But yeah, it's we want to encourage people to look at it more responsibly. Yeah.
Thank you. Anything further to add to that, gents? It's quite a specific question for Keith there on that one.
I mean, I'd just like to. I think it's sort of refreshing to see some innovation come into the specialist market. You know, it's important that the lenders do keep sort of trying to look at ways to sort of bring in new products and new criteria, because fortunately, as much as everyone wants the lowest rate, we can't just work on that. And the clients that we deal with within this arena, we do need the flexibility and sort of the innovation of products that sort of Foundation are looking to bring out there. So yeah, it's good to see.
Yeah. Excellent. And it ties in with Richard's announcement earlier as well about the holiday lets from the mortgage lender coming through shortly. Exactly. So it shows that innovation in the space. The speedboat versus the oil tanker analogy that specialist finance has always prided itself on. It can adapt to the market much quicker than some of the more institutionalized lenders can. Yeah. So a few questions coming in live, so we'll pick up a couple of those. We've got an example here: a client who lives at home with his parents in a large house, has saved up cash and wants to buy his first buy-to-let property to start putting his money to good use. How would the lenders view that one? Richard, do you want to start us off there? Put you on the spot straight away.
Give me the easy ones. so I think, I'm not trying to speak on behalf of Keith, but I think we may have a similar answer on this one, Keith.
I'm sure we will. Yeah.
Our response to that would be that we are happy to lend to first-time landlords. We would be looking for that landlord to at least have a mortgage, whether it's an existing residential, whether it's a consent to let, whether it's an existing buy to let. They can be living in rental currently, but we need a mortgage somewhere. And provided we've got that, we could help. On this one, sounds as though he's living at home with mum and dad, so I'm assuming he doesn't have any other property. So unfortunately, if that is the case, it's not for us, I'm afraid. But I'm sure that the other Richard would have some great solutions for this client somewhere in his portfolio.
Richard, thanks, teeing you up nicely.
Yeah, we have got lenders that will look to do that. Obviously, in terms of that, it's sort of a case of, I'd say, pop an inquiry form into us, and obviously one of our underwriters will be able to come back to you within sort of 4 working hours and be able to present a sort of a rate and solution for you. But we've definitely got lenders on panel that do that, and we'll be able to help you and your client out.
Excellent.
Chris, we could actually help out in one instance if the mom or the dad was going to join them on the mortgage. So one of those part, or both of them wanted to join on there, and potentially we could do that, because only one person has to be an existing property owner of the 2 on an individual application, 1 individual person's application, or 4 on the limited company application. So it's feasible, but we just have to look at it slightly differently. Obviously, the stamp duty implications there as well, isn't there?
Yeah. I don't know about you, Keith, but I'm not sure if I want to go on a mortgage with one of my kids. As much as I love them, and they're obviously wonderful.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Obviously, it would be a bit of a risk, wouldn't it? Yeah, well,
Yeah,
your children, obviously, not mine. Yeah.
That's a really good solution. That's another alternative, and one we could take as well. I'm glad you gave an answer on that. But
There you go.
No, I love my kids, but do I love them enough to share a mortgage with them? I don't know.
Thank you. There you go. Solution found for that one.
Yeah.
Excellent. So next question. I think, Richard, I'll start with you again with this one. I've got a client who owns 2 buy-to-lets and then wants to step into his first HMO. Is that something that you could consider? Is that an easy one for you?
Yeah, thank you.
No problem.
I didn't know I was pulling the sympathy act when I was mentioned before. Yes, is the short answer. All that we're asking for on HMO or multi-unit freehold block purchases is that the applicant can demonstrate at least a year's worth of experience of being a landlord. So undoubtedly this one, unless he's completed on them, last week, I'm assuming we've got a year's worth of experience. And yes, we can help. Max of 6 bedrooms for us on HMOs. And as a matter of interest, max of 6 units on multi-unit freehold blocks.
Thank you. Keith?
Yeah, we will do 10 units on a multi-unit block and 8 bedrooms on a HMO. The thing that's quite flexible on that is only a month of experience as a landlord. So you could be 22, back to your children there, Richard. 22, had a buy-to-let for a month and actually decided to do a HMO with you and getting you involved in that one as well a month later. So that is feasible. We'd have to look at it cautiously because it probably, that scenario, that age, it's quite sort of risky, but it's within policy to do it after 1 month's experience as a landlord. So I bought the buy-to-let last month. I had the experience of 1 month's receipt of rents. I now want to buy this 6-bedroom HMO. We can do that. We can help with that. And again, that applies to multi-unit blocks as well. So,
thank you. Rich, anything to wrap up on that one?
No, again, got multiple lenders that would obviously step in and be able to do that. So as I say, I guess it'd just be down to the deal sort of specifics and sort of then the best rate available for that particular client.
Thank you. Another question that's in here, Keith, I'll start with you. This one, a client recently purchased a property 3 months ago and refurbed it throughout. Is she able to refinance that property now?
It depends on how they bought it. If they bought it with bridging finance, yes, we can. We can do that with our early remortgage product. So effectively, if they bought it, for example, £100,000, I spent 20 grand on that in the refurbishments, and they bought it with bridging finance. So the outlay is 120. It's now worth 180. We can effectively do 75% of the open market value. So that would be 180. What was it? 135. We could raise straight away effectively, which would then put back the money they had and a bit more to then go on to the next project. If it's purchased cash, we'd have to wait until 5 months since purchase to complete after 6 months. So take the application at 5 months, get that processed through to offer in that period of time, and then complete at 6 months. So it depends on how, as I say, on bridging finance, we can help out with the early remortgage product. If it's cash, again, wait for that 5 months to come up, any product we wish, and obviously that's based on open market value as well. But if it's before that, then we can't.
Okay, thank you for that. Richard?
I'm still reading from Keith turning my children in from buying 1 buy-to-let to now they've got an HMO. I'm still trying to compute that one, Keith. But to answer your question, that's all right. You're never going to meet them.
You're not tuned into this.
Yeah. To answer your question, so we have a 6-month ownership rule, and at 6 months you can borrow against open market value. However, we can do a day 1 remortgage, and effectively what we're saying in those situations is if the applicant has purchased the property either with cash, they've bought it on a bridge, or they've inherited the property, we will allow them to do a day 1 remortgage. The one thing that is really crucial on these type of transactions is to line everything up before you come to Crystal and come to us. It's as far as just do the basics. Make sure the property is in the applicant's name on the land reg. That's absolutely crucial, because from a lender's perspective, we need to be able to link the applicant to the property if they're refinancing it. It's a straightforward process, but it's something you'd be really surprised doesn't happen as often as it should do. If we're going to do a day one remortgage, we're effectively lending 75% of that day one purchase price. So yes, we can help, and that's how we would do it.
Thank you. Talking about the land registry, I'm working with a broker at the moment with a client who bought a property to refurb back in October, and it's still not yet registered at the land registry in his name. So it just shows the delays, I suppose, that they're seeing at the minute on getting things registered. He bought that cash and wants to refinance it, and now we've got the issue that you need to wait for that to be refinanced before he can access the type of products that he wants to get to from there. So yeah, it's a very good point about the property ownership.
Yeah, must be really frustrating for him.
Yeah. Rich, anything to add to that one?
Not really. As I say, as you can see again, with the lenders on panel we've got that can sort of facilitate that requirement. So yeah. Yeah.
Excellent, thank you. Keep the questions coming in. Obviously, you've seen some of the really good answers that we're getting through from the panel at the moment. So if there is anything on your mind, any cases that are on your desk that you're struggling with, please pop them in the Q&A box, and we will do our best to address them all. Another one that's just popped up here. My client wants to buy some buy-to-lets from his father, who is planning his retirement and exit. Could he use gifted equity from the father in this scenario? Richard, do you want to start us off?
Because I nodded.
I saw the little twitch in the corner, yes.
I'll give a thumbs up if I want to answer your question. Yes, is the simple answer. So from our perspective, we're comfortable with gift of equity, full deposit. We're comfortable with gift of cash for deposit as well. And yes, as father is gifting equity to son, that's acceptable. We will accept a gift of equity from immediate family. So that's, when I say it's the obvious people, it's your grandparents, your mum, your dad, brothers, sisters, children, if it's going back up the line. And we can extend it on a referral to uncles, aunties and cousins. So, you know, it's quite a broad range of people there. So yeah, we can help in that situation.
Excellent, thank you. Keith?
Yeah, it would depend on one thing as well for us. If they're a first-time landlord, they have no other properties previously, then we would want the first one, the person to have a 5% stake in it themselves. Then if so, there's, I think you mentioned 7 or 8 there. So the first one will go through, we'd want 5% say deposit from that individual. The second, third, fourth onwards then could be the full equity gift from the father or whoever the person was. Wouldn't be an issue on that. We go down the list as well when it comes to family, down to aunts and uncles. We don't go to cousins. You are being very dangerous with that. I'm joking. Aunts and uncles is fine. But yeah, there's quite a wide spectrum there. But yeah, in that scenario, fine. First one needs to be in with that 5% deposit. So all the other ones, subsequent ones, absolutely fine with that. Open market value, obviously, as well.
Thank you. I think we're unearthing some family tensions in the background on these ones, so maybe we'll say that we'll do a different webinar where we'll cover up some of those. Rich, anything to add to those comments?
No, I mean, other than obviously we've seen lenders sort of become a little bit more relaxed around that family gifted deposit area. So again, you know, we've got solutions from our lender partners. So again, it's just a case of sending them in and we can produce the best terms available.
Excellent, thank you. We've got a question from Adam from Buy to Let Plus. One of his clients is looking to change one of his buy-to-lets into a holiday let in order to maximise income and cash in on the staycation boom that's taking place at the moment. How would you guys look at that one? So Keith, do you want to start us off with that one?
Yeah, we're very keen in that space. You can move it from a buy-to-let remortgage to ourselves on a what they call our short-term let product, which is 75% loan to value. There's 2 and 5 year fixed rate products in that space as well. The key thing about it, if it's quite complicated but simple as well, in the sense it's based on the AST value. So if a client comes to you and says, yeah, I want to buy this house or remortgage this property, it's worth £200,000, I'll remortgage for £150,000, we want to know what the actual notional AST value would be for that house. And say actually that would rent out for £750 a month. We do a calculation, 125 of pay rates or whatever the product was. It needs to achieve 730. Well, the AST shows 750. That's sufficient then for us to allow that case to progress. So you've got that fallback position of knowing the AST value is there. If nobody ever turned up to it to look at the property or ever stay in the property, you know we can rent it normally, but you've got the freedom to be able to rent it out for weekends, during the week on a daily basis. and it's effectively a buy-to-let without the need for an AST to be in place. The key thing on that, you need to own a property, which obviously in that scenario as a remortgage you do. But obviously if you were looking to do straight away with no other buy-to-lets, want to do one now, we won't do that. You have to allow buy-to-let with that 1 month's experience to do a holiday let. So what else can I tell you on that? Limited company or individual basis, not a problem. And again, there's very few lenders in the limited company space on holiday lets. So we can do that on that basis as well. The market's really growing. There's real opportunity there, hence the reason for TML to join the party as well. They can see the opportunity. It's good place to be. The one thing to mention as well, it can't be on a holiday site. So we don't want a holiday cottage on a site next to caravans, etc. It's got to be a normal type of property that could be rented out on an AST type of basis and be able to support itself independently.
Thank you. Are there any other location restrictions on that, or would you consider that pretty much anyway that you'd normally lend?
Yeah, location-wise, it's fine. We don't lend in Scotland currently. I think there's plans to going forward to be able to do that. But realistically, the first probably cases we had probably a couple of years ago was a house on a cliffside with a swimming pool that was worth £1 million. And again, we couldn't do that because of the fact it was too unique and too holiday specific. What we're looking for is to say that normal house that you want to use on a ad hoc basis to do on Airbnb or booking.com. That's the sort of scenario we're looking for, but it has to be a normal type of property.
Okay, excellent. The reason I asked the question on the commercial webinar for episode 3, there was an example brought up of a short-term let in Milton Keynes, and the commercial lenders weren't keen on that because it wasn't a holiday location as such. But obviously, there's
could be this year based on staycations. Could be a holiday location there, couldn't it? You never know.
Well, people can go and visit Milton Keynes for a variety of reasons.
Absolutely, yeah. So, but yeah, that wouldn't be a problem. We could do that.
Excellent. Thank you. And Richard, I know your product's hot off the press. Anything that you can add to that?
Can I not go all of Line of Duty on you and just say no comment? So our product, as I said, delighted to have told you exclusively today it's being launched. We'll be coming out with that product probably back end of next month by the time we've gone through the launch process. The one thing that we've identified is that the holiday rental market is growing and it's contributing to an overall increase in applicants looking for those sort of properties. And obviously COVID has a massive, massive impact, as I said earlier, with regards to staycation. But if I were to kind of draw in a few sort of high points or unique points on our product, we're looking at this from a perspective of as an investment property for the applicant. Okay, so it will be driven by the AST that would be in place normally for that type of property in that location. We're looking at all locations, so it could be short-term lets and holiday lets. It's going to be an either or. We will lend in Scotland. How could we not lend in Scotland? Because that's where our base is. So there's some great news for our friends north of the border. Minimum loan, we're going to kick off around about 50,000. Minimum valuation is going to be around the 67,000 mark, 75% LTV. We won't do your holiday parks. We won't lend on something that's got wheels or floats, naturally. There are lenders out there for the purpose of the tape that will do that, I'm sure, Rich, aren't there?
Yes.
And we're not going to do multi-blocks. We're not going to do HMOs either. But what we're going to bring is we're going to bring to the party an opportunity for this type of client. I've got this buy-to-let. It's more suited to a short-term let or a holiday let. The one thing that we're looking at, and we will come to market with this, are the SIC codes within the SPV. So from, I'm not a tax expert and I'm not passing on tax advice here, but there are SIC codes specific to the provision of accommodation for short-term stay. And there are SIC codes as well for other holiday and other collective accommodation. Now, if they're included within that SPV SIC codes, there will be benefits. But as I say, I'm not a tax expert. Please go and talk to a proper grown-up who doesn't need crayons for writing like me, who's an accountant and is qualified. But we will bring that into play. So yeah, great news. We'll be at the party fairly soon. In Scotland as well. I've not forgiven you, Keith, for leading my children astray with all these buy-to-lets.
Rich, anything further to add to the holiday let issue, question?
Obviously, just with the holiday lets, the biggest challenge is getting the lender to accept it on a holiday let rental income basis, or getting it to fit on a standard AST rental calculation. That's the biggest issue. We do have lenders that can do both. So again, I guess it's a case of we'd go down the route of best rate, best product, assuming it fits on the rental calculation, and it then all hinges on the valuation. Again, the advantage of using someone like ourselves is that it does fall out of bed on the rental valuation, obviously with the likes of Foundation or TML. We've got a backup lender that we can look at switching it to, again, relatively easy and sort of pain free for the brokers and the client to get it completed. So that's sort of that's probably the biggest issue I see with the holiday let applications, or the most common problem.
Thank you for that. We've had another advanced question come in from Carla at Allegate. This one's a little bit more specific. I have a client who missed some payments on one of the buy-to-let mortgages in April and May of last year, back at the start of COVID, instead of asking for a payment holiday. How would you view that kind of application, and what kind of rates do you think might be available? Keith, do you want to start us off with that one?
We're very negative in that sense. It wouldn't be possible with us. We don't like secured arrears. If people have acted responsibly and had a mortgage payment deferral, not an issue at all with that. But if they've missed them and not actually done the appropriate sort of work to make sure the lender's aware and they're working together, then we wouldn't be able to help. So yeah, it's a very negative response on that. We, saying on a connected point, we had very low levels of mortgage payment deferrals anyway, and that helped us coming out at the blocks with the into market last May. And so in that sense, we're really, really conscious about that side of things. So unfortunately, it wouldn't be one for us.
Fine. Richard, would your view be the same on that one?
Very similar answer from us. We couldn't help on this particular case. Our view on payment holidays, our view on bounce back loans and government grants is the same across the board. We don't have a problem provided they've been agreed, and we're fine with them. When it comes to the bounce back loans and the grants, yes, that's fine, but we don't want them being used as a deposit. Exactly. On this specific case, you said they missed payments in April and May of last year. Was that correct, Chris?
Yeah, so just outside of the 12 months.
Okay, so from our perspective, we have a rule on buy-to-let, which is none in 12 months, but one in 24. So the fact that they've unfortunately not obtained consent from the lender for the payment holiday has marked their credit file. If it had been just the one, we would have been good to go, but it's not for us. I'm sure Mr. Bonds will have some solutions though.
Yes, we do. We've got a couple of lenders again that will look at that. Obviously, rate-wise is going to be impacted. They're not going to be sort of looking at sort of the threes. But as I say, we do have a couple of lenders that will do that probably at around sort of 4.5, sort of between 4.5 and 6%. I would say you're going to be looking at off the top of my head on that. But as I say, the key thing is just positioning that with the client from the outset, which I'm sure obviously the viewers are well adapted to doing. So,
excellent, thank you. Again, it shows the flexibility there of having access to multiple lenders, that we had a no, we had if it was one, and then we have a yes, we can get that done somewhere else. So it's definitely worth asking any questions like that at all. Certainly nothing's, well, very few things are a straight no. There's usually something available. It's just at what level that's going to fit for the client and how that's going to work. So thank you for that. Thank you for the questions coming in. We'll pick up any more that come in offline and we'll respond to you directly on those. So thank you for that. So to wrap up then, guys, can I ask each of you what's been your favourite deal that you've seen funded this year so far? So Richard, do you want to start us off with that one?
Wow. There genuinely have been so many, but I'm just trying to think. There's a great answer. I think probably a large loan, £1.425 million. We were asked to refinance an existing buy-to-let property. The applicant had a substantial residential property with mortgage, and they had a portfolio. However, the portfolio had fallen into disrepair, and consequently, they were not able to achieve the rentals that they needed to kind of make this, the dream. We looked at that case, and in a true specialist sense, we were able to kind of see beyond the short-term issues. And what we were able to do was raise the funds on the HMO that enabled the applicant to go away and carry out the improvements on the properties. And the great news is that that deal actually went through really well. We spoke about right first time, position everything at the outset, and then you'll reap the benefits as the case goes through. And that is exactly what happened. And that case done, dusted, completed, and the applicant now has got a fabulous portfolio of properties that are attracting some very, very fine rents. So yeah, that probably stands out for me this year so far.
Excellent. A nice example of the flexibility there as well, looking beyond what's just in front of you and seeing the bigger picture. No, excellent. Yeah. Thank you. Keith, same for yourself. What's a favourite deal of yours that you've seen?
Yeah, it goes back to what we mentioned briefly earlier, actually. I had a case about 6 weeks ago, funny enough, and it was a purchase price of about 110 grand, so much smaller numbers. We know our place, Richard, in that sense, much smaller figures on this. And the guy, it was in poor condition. The garage is in disrepair, the property had been lived in by an old chap for quite a number of years. And the broker was saying to me, can we not squeeze this through as a buy-to-let, 110 grand, let's do 75% loan to value, surely we can get that through. And I said, it's unlikely, and you might be wasting the evaluation fee on that. Have you thought about the fact of pulling back from that and realising that if you buy the property on bridging finance, like 110,000, the repair costs about 18 grand to get up to speed. So their outlay was 128 grand. The actual value at the end was 182,000. So effectively bought it on bridge, did the repair work to it, then refinanced back to us 6 weeks later. And it was a case where they then got 138 grand or something like that. So all the money back and a bit more onto the next project, and actually then they've generated an awful lot of equity in that first property. They then got more money to go to the next project as well. And just that opportunity, rather than trying to squeeze it through as an old buy to let, let's try and get it through the system, and squeeze it through and hope it goes through, reverse it back out of there and say, actually, there's an opportunity here for that client to gain much more financially and actually do another one and potentially another one thereafter, and creating that portfolio landlord rather than just that one-off landlord. And so that was one that sort of stuck out for me. Another thing that's actually, we're a residential lender as well, as you're aware, just very small, going back to sort of what Richard mentioned earlier, there's a big case, 1.2 million on 4 million purchase, high profile client, age 67, with 1 year's accounts and property income from their portfolio. And we did that one as well at an 8-year term on interest only, with interest only affordability. So those unusual cases on residential as well, we can take a very positive view of those as well. So that was something, I'm not going to say who it was, but somebody off the television a few years back. Obviously they're 67 now, so it was a few years back. But yeah, really good case. Again, that broker was very happy with the outcome of that case as well. So yeah, there's quite a range there. Richard mentioned sort of big cases. We did the small cases as well and the large ones, the residential side as well. So overall, yeah, loads of good individual cases there.
Yeah, thank you. And the buy-to-let one there shows the benefits of actually discussing the case as well, because rather than trying to do what's in front of you, sometimes that conversation can open up other doors and change that transaction, which in that scenario sounds like it was the better option for the client.
Indeed.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. Rich, your favourite one from Crystal side?
Yeah, it sort of goes again back to something you said earlier about relationship building with sort of broker partners. Just to give you a bit of background on this one, this was originally a broker that brought a new client of theirs to us sort of 4 years ago. The client at the time owned no buy-to-lets, had very little experience. He was doing a bit of rent to rent, but had the aspiration of building an investment portfolio. And basically, we've done multiple applications for him. We've done auction purchases with full refurbs, a house to flat conversion, a shop which he's converted to a shop and flat. He's even done sort of an ex-care home purchase and a conversion into 10 apartments. But the latest one, which, as I say, which is sort of coming on to the example, it's led to us doing 4 applications for him. So that broker's sort of gone through and been involved in the whole process as will have an earn of four prop fees. We did sort of the initial bridge to purchase the property. then sort of heavy refurbed bridge to help raise the capital to start the works and go through that. We then switched to a light refurb to continue the capital takeout of the property and sort of also reduce the cost of the bridge to the client. And we're now currently going through the takeout of all that, which is on a term loan at 2.99. Obviously, he's going to capital raise it and go again. And this just shows sort of over the 4-year period, this client's gone from owning no property, investment properties whatsoever to currently having 19. I think it's worth circa sort of £4 million. And this broker and client they love the service that we've delivered. They love the flexibility of the products that our lenders offer, and they just keep coming back. And as I say, it's just an example of sort of what having a good relationship with a packager and the versatility that a packager can offer in terms of the different types of products that really value it can add to our broker partners.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. So the two big takeaways for me from the session this morning then are flexibility, which the lenders have shown in droves today, and relationship as being two essential factors to doing more specialist finance business.
Definitely.
Excellent. So that brings us to the end of the session today. So I'd like to say a huge thank you to our esteemed panel. Keith, Richard, thank you for your time this morning. Very insightful on the comments that have come through as well. And hopefully for the brokers that have attended, that's given you an insight into how some of the specialist lenders work. And hopefully we can now place some business off the back of it. So from me, stay safe, stay busy, and I'll see you all next time.
Cheers. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.